for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free.
Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of the show is Ray Johns, American Patriot. I've been gone for a couple of weeks. I missed you. I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're with us today. We've got Gary coming back today, so we're going to have a great show. But first, let me tell you about my American Patriot for this week. You know, we have an outstanding American Patriot. This week is a woman by the name of Ruby Bradley, and she fought during the Second World War. Actually, when the Philippines was invaded, she, another nurse, and a doctor fled to the foothills, and they stayed there for weeks until the locals actually turned them in, took them back down to the base, which in the meantime had been turned into a prison camp. She spent 3 years in this prison camp, smuggling in, bribing guards, and smuggling in food and caring for these people, and was instrumental in saving a lot of people's lives. This great lady received 34 medals and citations, 2 Legion of Merit Awards, and listen to this, 2 Bronze Stars. She was promoted to colonel, and it didn't end there. During the Korean War, she went back as the 8th Army's chief nurse and served there and was instrumental in evacuating several hundred people over the course of some years out of danger. I mean, this was just a phenomenal lady. This is the kind of lady that movies are written about. Just an outstanding person. So, Ruby Bradley, my Patriot of the Week. Hey, buddy, we got Gary back. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, Ray. Good to be back.
Isn't that an amazing story about this lady?
Man.
Just, in doing this research, I'm going to do, mainly because of you, because Gary's a pilot. There was and you know this, there was a couple of female pilots. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. No,
yeah,
really.
well, they didn't fight here, but they fought out of France, but they were Americans, you know.
Really? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
and they went over there, one of them, and so we're gonna feature a couple of them in the future here. So what's going on there, buddy?
Well, there's a lot going on in the way of politics, and of course, is what we're all about. And Trump is down on that G20,
Yeah.
and they just signed, which they've been working on this for months, maybe even a year. And what we're not going to understand or need to understand is just how complicated and how difficult that is
The trade.
to do this agreement with Canada,
And
Mexico,
Mexico.
and the United
Yeah.
States. I mean, that is
Just the
there is
fact
so
that
many.
he put it together, Gary. Is
These
just,
people have been working night and day for forever on this. But here's what it turns out to be. It turns out to be the largest trade deal in the history of the world.
Oh wow!
There's
I didn't know that. I know it was huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And it has a lot of ramifications down the road, okay? Now, there's going to be a lot of objection coming from the Democrats
And some Republicans, I understand.
and Republicans. In reality, Ray, as things have gone along, there really isn't much difference between today's Republican and today's Democrat.
Yeah,
They're both crooked, they're both corrupt,
yeah,
as far as our leaders
yeah.
on both sides of the aisle.
I agree. You're absolutely right.
And what you really become is you become a Trumpism or a Trumper or something. You're not in agreement with what these Republicans are doing, and you're not in agreement with what these Democrats are doing, because they're both anti-American in reality, and it's exhibited. They're globalists,
Yeah.
And so it's kind of interesting. It's kind of a little bit of a side deal. If you'll notice now, and what I always thought naively, when the polls are closed, the voting is over. That's it, and you count the votes, and that's it. Well, what is it now that we have all of these votes that get counted after the election?
Like what's going on in Florida, as an example.
Ray, how about all over America?
Yeah.
And why is it that 100% of those new votes that are found are always Democrat?
Isn't that interesting? It is interesting.
why isn't it Republican?
It's always that way.
They
You're right.
find more votes, and the more votes they find is always Democrats.
Yeah.
How come the Democrats are always losing their votes and we have to go find them? It doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, well,
And they're flipping right now in these precincts, like even California, are flipping that say a Republican won. Well, they find Democrat votes, and now he's out.
yeah.
And what it tells you is that our
There's
election
so much corruption.
is as crooked as a dog's hind leg.
Yeah.
And it's sad, and it's kind of disheartening. And then when you begin to realize that, let's say, well, you're back there, now we have a Republican this and a Republican Senate, but now we have the Democrat House. Well, quite frankly, there's not going to be any difference. Because at that level, they're all crooked. Okay, now let's get back to Mexico.
Yeah.
Now, Mexico has a crooked, corrupt government and have forever.
Oh, yeah. As long as I can remember.
Okay, now, these people, these politicians, Mexican politicians, they're every bit as corrupt, obviously. We always kind of thought maybe they were more corrupt, but in reality, they're no more corrupt than our politicians. The difference is they call it bribery.
Yeah.
We call it lobbyists.
Yeah. Yes. Good point. Great point.
It's the
Sure.
same thing.
Absolutely, Gary. Great point.
Yeah. Our lobbyists pay our politicians to do what they want them to do. Their bribers pay their politicians to do
It's
what
the same
they want.
thing.
Same
You're right.
thing.
Absolutely.
Right. So you
Good point.
Yeah.
Excellent point. In fact.
So you got that, right? You understand there's no difference. They're both corrupt, okay? Well, let's get into then. Let's get into another little thing that I find kind of amusing. The Democrats who are going to fight this recent trade deal with Mexico,
Oh, yeah. They've already started.
they're concerned about how it's going to threaten our workers. Why are they not threatened by protecting our workers with the immigrants coming in here by the thousands?
Great point.
Isn't that a threat
Great
to
point.
our workers?
Great point. Yeah.
So how can you sit there and say, well,
That's a major threat to our workers. Are you kidding?
yeah,
Major.
because these immigrants coming in are all Democrat voters.
Oh, yeah.
So they want thousands of them to come in.
Sure they do. want
So
them
they
to
get
come
over
in.
here and say, hey, wait a minute, with that agreement, I think there's some unfairness there to our American workers.
Not-
Well, then how about the ones that you're
Hey,
letting in come in
not-
by the thousands?
Not only that, they're going to be entitled to all kinds of benefits once they're here. We both know that.
Well, it's kind of interesting.
These
You know,
people need to wake up.
the average Social Security recipient receives $1,200 a month. The average illegal immigrant receives something like $3,800 or $3,400 a month.
Are you kidding, Gary?
Well, people don't know that, right?
I didn't know that.
No, I didn't either till I read it.
That's amazing.
Think about that.
Are you kidding? That's 3 times more than the average.
Well, you worked here you're American, been here all your life and all that, and now you're getting Social Security. The average Social Security is $1,200 a month.
Yeah.
But if you're an immigrant that comes walking in here and starts receiving all the benefits that are available to you as an illegal immigrant, you're receiving I think it's $3,400 or $3,800 a month.
And guess who's paying for that?
Of
You
course.
and I are paying
yeah,
for it.
I mean, Ray.
Good grief.
I
I
mean,
had
doesn't
no
it stand
idea.
doesn't it stand to reason that the Americans should be getting more than the illegal immigrants?
certainly.
An illegal immigrant
We're
shouldn't even be
citizens.
here.
We're citizens.
Shouldn't
for crying
even
out
be
loud.
here, and
No.
we're getting $1,200. They're getting $3,400. Doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Not at all.
So there's that kind of inequality, you see. And another one that was interesting, in Obama's last 2 years, we were creating 900 jobs a month. In Trump's 2 years, his average has been 75,000 new jobs a month.
Jeez. I knew it was a lot more. I had no idea it was that many.
Can you imagine?
Wake up, people. Wake up.
People got to wake up.
You have to wake up and see what's going on. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, and if you're a Republican, you have to look at your own people that are not in your best interest either. You know, I mean, I'll give you an example. Like, what is it? Paul Ryan, the recent speaker. I mean, these guys are what they call rhinos, which most people don't understand what that means.
Perfect example.
But what they are is the establishment elites, that deep state, that whole thing. They are anti your best interest as much as a Democrat is anti your best interest.
Oh, heck yeah, they are. They're for self. That's what they're for.
And where Trump, I think, has been a little naive, that's my opinion, is when he came into office, he went and hired all those Obama holdovers, and those were all in these departments and stuff, and all they did is stab him in the back.
That's all they did. He was trying to be fair. That's what the thing is.
Yeah, and he thought these people had some kind of morality.
Yeah,
or something.
some type of decency.
Something, and they had zero. So he goes and he cleans them out. Well, he goes and hires some more. Now, he hires a bunch of crooks again, I mean, look at that. Okay, gets rid of Comey, FBI. He's got that Ray. Ray's a deep state inhabitant.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the one they got rid of, Sessions.
Oh yeah, he's a biggie.
He hires which Sessions? He's just another one of those deep state.
Yeah, proved it.
Corrupt crooks. So once you begin to realize that all we got there is corrupt crooks, I don't care whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you've got crooks in there, and they're all fighting Trump. They're all stabbing it. You know what Trump would be better off to run this country? He'd be better off with his son-in-law Jared Kushner and his daughter Ivanka Trump, and
you're right. You're absolutely right. Just them. Just them.
Just run the country with them.
Boy, his son-in-law's sharp, isn't he?
Oh man! In fact, Mexico's giving him the highest honor. They have
I just said that. I just saw that today on the news. Yeah.
No, but he's surrounded himself with people that have done nothing but stab him in the back over and over and over. And all he cares about is one thing: that's to make America great again and make American people wealthy.
Absolutely,
that's all he cares about.
We said it 6 months ago,
and he's not even charging to do that.
He did not want to do this. He didn't want to do this.
And on top of that, he's not even charging us for it.
No.
Now,
what does that tell you?
It's a sad deal. But let's get into what that's a background, right?
Yeah.
And Ray, we're going to hear a lot coming down the pike. And
I know
these people are talking about impeaching Trump. So I asked the guy, okay, you get rid of Trump, who are you going to put in there? Who's going to go in there? They can't answer that because there isn't anybody that can do what Trump's doing.
No, absolutely not.
And because anybody you're going to put in there is going to be as crooked as a dog's eye and leg.
Sure. Trump can't be bought.
I don't care if you put a Republican in there or you put a Democrat in there. You're going to have the same thing.
Sure you are.
So in order to clean this up to where we, the people, take power, this is what it's all about.
Sure
That's why what is really being fought by Washington, D.C., and all that encompasses in terms of the deep state, but we talk about deep state, but all these departments. What we're talking about, these people are anti-American. They're doing everything they can, and that's why they don't like Trump, because Trump is pro-American. They're doing everything they can to maintain their own power, which is against our best interest. And so this is why it's difficult for Trump, because maybe he thought, well, I get in there, I'm Republican, and I'll have these Republicans that will help me. No, they've been stabbing him in the back.
Absolutely.
Every bit as much. It's like, at least a Democrat, he didn't count on him, but now he's counting on this Republican. The Republican ends up stabbing him.
Just as bad.
Just as bad. So that's where we're at. But getting back, which is kind of an encouraging thing, I think, or thought, is that they just signed, it's Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Yeah. What Trump envisions is that this Canada, Mexico, and the United States as a region becomes the biggest, most economic, successful power.
Brilliant, man.
In the entire world.
Yeah, by far.
Bigger than Europe, bigger than okay. Yeah. So these three countries, I don't have much hope for Canada. Quite frankly, I think he could do without that.
Yeah.
But between Mexico and the U.S., that can become a major powerhouse in the world.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Tomorrow, I guess it is, Mexico gets a new president.
Yeah. This is his last day, I think, today. Yeah.
Well, the new president is taking a page out of Trump's book, and he's saying, make Mexico great again.
Yeah.
And he's, number one, is the Mexican people. That's what he's coming from.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
got to be that's a plus with us.
Well, that's a
Because we-
plus with us, a big time. And so with Trump's help, he's going to be able to raise the minimum wage for all Mexicans.
Oh, that's a plus for
Workers.
that country. A major plus.
Well, let's
Gary, for
talk
that
about that. Mexico has just two class of people. You're either dirt poor
country. Or you're very wealthy.
or you're very wealthy.
Yeah.
And if you're very wealthy, you're part of the corruption,
Yeah.
just like our very
Like the
wealthy
cartel
is.
and those types. Yeah.
Okay, and then, but there's no middle class.
No middle class.
Obama was heading us to a no middle class.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, look at the factories and all that.
Hillary
that was closed.
would have continued that.
Oh, we'd
even
go on
worse.
our way to Venezuela in
Sure.
a handcar. Okay?
Absolutely.
So look at Cuba. Cuba has there's no middle class.
No.
You're either poor or you're. Mm-hmm. You look at all these communist
Well,
countries.
they're
that
all
way.
the same. Yeah, there's no middle class. You're right.
So
Because that doesn't work with communism.
and that communism's got to be the useful idiots
Yeah.
and then themselves.
The elite, yeah.
Yeah, and that's it. There's no middle class.
No.
Because everybody's equal.
Sure.
Well, everybody's equally miserable.
Yeah, that's a deal. Yeah.
That's what's equal about it. We're all miserable. We're all equally poor.
Yeah.
And that, by God, that's what I'm a communist, but by God, I'm just as equal as the next guy. Well, come on, we're living in a hovel, and when we could be doing this. So what Mexican wants to do, he wants to build a middle class in Mexico, and he needs Trump's help. A lot of people don't understand this, but that Mexican president, he wants that wall every bit as much as Trump.
We've talked about that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we know the reason because of the stopping the cartels. He needs to get rid of that cartel thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And so how do you do that? I mean, if a cartel officer is a guy so much an hour to work for them, and the government in Mexico, they're not even close,
No,
right?
they can't afford it.
So he has to go work for the cartel. Now, if you could raise the minimum wage in Mexico and develop a middle class, now you don't need cartels.
Yeah.
You see? Okay, now, what does Mexico have, though, besides labor, which happens to be a big deal? I don't think there's a better labor force in the world.
You
than
said that.
Mexican labor.
You said that 6-7 months ago. I remember.
Yeah,
that.
and I've talked to other friends of mine that have had that have Mexican labor, and they all say the same thing. They said these people are unbelievably, and there's nowhere in the world that somebody's going to compete with the kind of labor that Mexico provides
Yeah.
or has available. They just have a certain work ethic that is fabulous. Okay, now, so let's think about that for a minute. And now all of a sudden you start building a middle class in Mexico. But what else does Mexico offer? Mexico has resources.
Resources, absolutely. I was
It's
just,
huge resources. But why can't they be Saudi Arabia? They're sitting out there on top of a camel in the middle of sand. How come those people are so wealthy? I mean, look what Mexico got by comparison. Okay, now, one of the things is energy. That's the quickest, which is the oil.
Yeah.
And Mexico's got buku oil, okay? Now, let's think about this. If you take California, Oregon, and Washington is all libtards. They prevent oil from being drilled all along the way.
that's what they're doing. Yeah.
So, but Trump says, I'm not even going to fight that. We'll just bring that oil from Mexico. And you're going to see pipelines of gas and oil coming out of
It's
Mexico.
a lot closer than Saudi Arabia, isn't it?
A lot closer than Saudi Arabia. And you just go and you supply all this
Sure.
California, Oregon, and guess what that does for the Mexican economy?
It boosts the hell out of it, for one
Boosts
thing.
the hell out of it. And we're going to encourage.
That's brilliant and
yeah.
beautiful.
Right. It's going to be. I think you'll see a day where there's not going to be any incentive for somebody in Mexico to come to the United
here.
States, and likewise, the United States may see some incentives that maybe I want to move to Mexico because I've got friends that in the farming business that have done just that.
Yeah.
They've said, no, I'm farming, and went down to Mexico and started farming grapes and stuff down there. So I think you're going to see, what you're going to see is here's our middle class, and you're going to see Mexico, which has none. You're going to see Mexico developing a middle class.
That's going to be major for their economy.
And
major.
it's going to be a big benefit for us. 'Cause
Sure,
now
absolutely.
these people can afford to buy our products. We can afford to buy their products.
Sure. It's going to be a win-win for everybody.
It's a win-win for everybody. Now, if you think about the labor part, they have greater labor than we do. So why can't they do? If labor is being benefited and there's benefits for labor, why can't they?
Sure.
Because of their asset, have a strong middle class.
Of course they can. Of course they can.
And one of the first steps was Trump and his group. They put incrementally if you work for the auto industry in Mexico, you are going to receive $16 an hour.
See, that's a plus.
And that's like making, because of the purchasing power in Mexico compared to here.
Oh my gosh!
That's like,
I hadn't thought about that aspect.
Well,
that's you're right.
Purchasing power is more important.
Sure.
Okay, I already figured it out roughly. It's like if you're a worker in Mexico getting $16 a day, an hour, and you're shopping in Mexico and you're buying, your home, all this that you have, that's equivalent to making $60 to $70 an hour here in the U.S.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! And it goes right back into their economy. Yeah. That blossoms, Gary.
That blossoms quickly.
Amazing, Gary. We're gonna take a very quick break here. We're gonna come back. We're also gonna talk about some new developments with the show. Probably doing it live as opposed to a radio show. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now, we're gonna take a little bit of a break here, pay a few bills, and we'll be back and say 2 and 2.
From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee.
Okay, we're back. I'm back here with Gary, and we're discussing some pretty good stuff. The trade pact with Mexico and Canada, and a whole bunch of stuff, huh, Gary?
Yeah. Well, we're trying to look at the bigger picture. I really get tired of getting into that little gossipy nitpicking. Well, Trump said this. Well, he said that, and this and that. And I'm thinking, what? I've got more outlet. I want to know what's going on in the big deal.
Sure.
And I look at it this way, the simplest form is that we've got a media, which is a propaganda machine, which is 95% anti-American.
Sure they are.
And then we got a group of people, which let's just call it 50% of the population, which are naively gullible, useful idiots, just like the communists.
Who believe everything they read, hear, and see.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that what they're doing is voting against their best interests almost 100. If you're voting Democrat, that's against your best interest. Yeah. Because the evidence is there.
Yeah.
And so how can you continue to think that's a good deal? Because you will end up exactly like, which has been proven at any country that operates in that social communist environment. Well, it sounds great, everybody. Why can't we all just have the same thing? Well, it'd be great, except the same thing happens to be we're living there in a hovel, in a ghetto, eating mush.
Yeah.
That's the same thing.
Sure it is.
Now, what's great about that?
Absolutely nothing.
We're all, in fact...
Well, like you said earlier, we're all equal, all right? Yeah, equally miserable.
Equally miserable. And so, in fact, I was just talking to a friend of mine today on the way in, and he was talking about the change in the environment of the people. We've lost that entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
The millennials don't understand that.
No.
It's corporate. It's not the individual that's gone out. And that's your middle class. That's what's been taken away. All these little mom and pops and everything else. The factories that were shut down, we're talking about 60 to 70,000 factories that were shut down. And now they become part of a bigger corporation. Well, how does that benefit you as an individual in terms of
look at the dairy industry. I grew up in that industry.
Yeah, and having your own
the dairy industry. It used to be the small mom and pop dairies, where people that were really poor would show up and you'd sell them a gallon of milk for next to nothing because it cost you nothing. And people counted on that, and you counted on them coming by, and they were the kind of people that when you saw them out, they were always smiling and happy
Right.
and glad to see you because they knew who you were and they had
Right.
benefited from your success.
Well, I remember when I was growing up too, Ray, just like yourself, as far as little dairies, they were all.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see them at night. They'd turn their dairy
Yeah.
in the barn, and then you hear the rooster crow,
Yeah.
cock-a-doodle-doo, you
Yeah.
know. And it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean, 5, 6 dairies all right.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about that: they were little dairies, and the people were making a living.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: they were free.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
And they were their own boss.
Yeah.
And they determined their own destiny.
Oh yeah.
But how in the world? I mean, the
To see
the education system itself is almost forcing you, indoctrinating you to become a worker for a factory instead of for yourself.
absolutely. And how sad is it to see these mom and pop operations fall by the wayside? You know, it's
Well,
really sad.
What they've done is, and it sounds good, is boy, there's nobody can fail. You heard that term all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Well, nobody left behind and all that baloney. Let me tell you, you can't have. There's no such thing as a success without the possibility of a failure.
No.
They work hand in hand.
Yes, they do.
I got to have a right to succeed, but also I have a right to fail.
Absolutely.
And if you say we're going to eliminate any of the risk, then if I don't have any risk, then how am I going to down the road succeed without the possibility of my improving so that I can succeed?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, I just sit there
Yeah.
and just don't do anything.
You know, you just reminded me of something that, you know, where we grew up, there was a little country store out in the country.
Yeah.
And it was probably 4 miles away, something like that. You know, just a little country store ran by this wonderful old man who always, you could never go in there without him wanting to give you something. He was just everybody loved this guy. Just a little mom and pop type
Yeah,
operation, you
yeah.
know. And my mother used to give me and my brother some money, and we'd go down there. Now, this is how trusting this man was. You couldn't do that these days. We could go down there and buy my mom 2 packs of cigarettes because she smoked, and we could each get a cola, a Coke, and an ice cream bar, and a piece of bubble gum. You know, and for this guy, and he was always giving us something. You know, here's a bag of potato chips. You know, and
Yeah.
and that was so much fun, and it was delightful. And to know that things like that no longer exist saddens the
Yeah.
hell out of me.
Right.
It really does.
It's such a when you go back, and you don't have to go back that far,
Yeah. No, you don't.
which you haven't.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can see how it's changed, but has it changed for the better? No. It's changed the word. And man, I'll tell you, I just can't understand how anybody, if they really thought it through, how you could vote for a communist, socialist Democrat.
Doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's got to be something wrong with you if you even think in those terms.
That's it.
You know.
That's it. And then you go to the Republican side at the top, and you come to find out they're just every bit as corrupt and crooked as the Democrats are, and they're fighting Trump. He thought he was going to have all these
Sure.
Republicans that would. No, they were just backstabbing like Sessions in them.
Oh, Sessions, a perfect.
I mean, they're doing everything in the world to stop Trump. Because why? Because we're back to that lobbyists that feed them.
Yeah.
I mean, what is it that you become a congressman and come out of there a multimillionaire? Well, how does that work? I mean, you're supposed to be back there to serve the people.
Yeah.
In fact, in the old days, when you went there, you stood a chance of going bankrupt because you weren't home to take care of your business.
Sure. Sure.
But you served simply because that was your duty, no different than if drafted in the
you
Army.
knew you were contributing to the betterment of this country.
And that's
you know?
why you went back there.
Exactly.
I mean, there was no such thing as people in those days out campaigning. No, they said, "Oh man, I hope they don't pick me." And here you'd see that guy coming down there.
George Washington
Yeah.
didn't even have the money to go to his own inauguration. He
Right.
had to borrow it from a neighbor.
There you
just
go.
to get there. Just
Yeah.
to get there.
Yeah.
You know?
So think about that.
Yeah.
That's what it is today.
Yeah.
And these guys they're clamoring to go back there, and they come out of there multimillionaire because they get bought out.
Look at Obama.
Look at Obama.
What's he get
Right.
per speech?
Right.
It's just unreal. You know.
Which is kind of interesting.
I wouldn't walk across the street to hear the man talk.
Well,
Yeah.
Hillary and Bill, they had this rally here a while back. I think it was the guy was telling me that, so don't hold me to the numbers. But so it was supposed to be a big auditorium, 15, 18,000. and they were charging people. They were going to charge them $200 a ticket. It got down to where they were charging them $5 a ticket, and there was nobody there.
What does that tell you? They start out at 200, go down to 5, and still nobody showed up. That's got to be telling you something.
And Obama
man.
goes to one of those kind of deals, and they had, how you put they put the partitions.
Yeah.
And they just kept moving the partitions away.
And look at some of Trump's rallies.
Oh,
it's
my
like
God.
you said.
You can't get in.
They block the highways.
Yeah.
The highways are backed up for people wanting to go. It's nothing for 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people to show up to hear him. You know?
But I think that what we're going to see, hopefully anyway, Trump's going to run into problems with the Democrats trying to stop him, and that really gets down. There's a lot of Republicans that don't want to see this change either, because they're benefiting with not having a wall.
It goes all the way back to special interests.
Special interests.
It goes all the way back to that.
But one of the interesting things that I caught right off the bat is on the one hand, the Democrats are saying, oh, well, we got to look out for the American worker, and we got to see if that agreement is going to harm the American worker. What do they think these thousands and thousands of immigrants coming in are doing?
Like you and I said. Unbelievable.
They're for no borders, but we got to watch out for the American worker.
Yeah.
But they're for no borders in these, because that's all future Democrat voters.
Sure they are.
That's what that is.
Man, deflating the economy with
well,
with
and
their
it's
benefits.
just not. It's just ridiculous. I mean, what has happened with that immigration thing? However, I don't knock on wood, I guess, or keep your fingers crossed. But I hope that Trump and this Mexican president, and it looks like it, they could get together, and Trump is going to do what he can to help the Mexican president, so that he could build a middle class.
And I think that's great. Like you said, unlike Canada, where he and this guy have had kind of conflicts.
Well,
back and
that guy
forth.
is strictly a communist
Oh,
socialist.
yeah.
I mean, come on.
But the new guy from Mexico, first of all, they like each other.
Right.
And I think that's a plus. I think we're going to see some positive things. Like you said, it's going to be good for us. It's going to be a win-win for everyone.
Well, as far as economics, I mean, seriously, what does really Canada have to offer?
Nothing that I can see.
You can't see anything, but what does Mexico have to offer in terms of resources and all?
A lot.
I mean, there's no reason why Mexico cannot become one of the more wealthier nations of the world.
Sure.
And they will be hopefully with the plan that is that is going to go into effect real shortly here.
It's going to be major for those people down there.
Yeah.
Just major.
And it would be major for them, and it'd be major for us.
Yeah.
And I'm optimistic about it. I'm feeling good about it, because obviously you could look the other way, how it's been, and it has not been good.
No, it hasn't. Forever.
And so I think that we're going to see in the future, we're going to see that the United States, Canada, and Mexico are going to be the strongest economic region in the world, stronger than China, stronger than Europe, stronger than Saudi Arabia, stronger than anywhere.
Yeah.
Russia and so forth. Okay.
That's major too.
Yeah,
I mean,
even the
we can
Southeast.
accomplish so much.
Well, even Southeast Asia, I think that Mexico, United States, and Canada can become stronger than economy-wise. You see, stronger than South America.
Sure.
Now maybe all of a sudden these South American nations start picking up on the idea that, hey, what's going on in Mexico? Maybe we ought to do the same thing.
Absolutely. I hadn't thought about that, Gary, but
Well,
why not?
well, heck, if you think of the resources that are in South America,
Oh, they're tremendous.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So why can't those countries? The Brazilian president just elected, he's a subscriber of the Trump.
There you go.
Yeah.
Plus, a big plus.
He wants the same thing. He wants the Brazilian president. He wants to make Brazil great again, and he wants the Brazilian people first.
He's setting a trend, isn't he?
And
for countries.
he's adopting what Trump, and Trump says, I'm going to help him.
Yeah.
Mexican president, I'm going to help him. And they're taking a page out of his book.
Sure.
Look how fast.
That's another plus for us.
Oh,
with
that'd
South
be a
America.
huge
Can you
plus.
imagine?
Right.
Now we've got all these regions. We will certainly be just
Well, yeah, and then you look what that does for the people. That's freedom. I mean, you become free when you become dependent on yourself and not on somebody else.
Absolutely, you do.
And so there's some good things that could come out of this, but it's going to be something that there's going to be fought by the globalists.
Oh, of course it is.
In the globalists in our own country, people like the Bush family is going to fight us. I mean, when you get to the top corporate billionaires, the elite or whatever, man, I'm telling you what, they don't want to see what's going on with the people.
No.
They don't want to see the people gain.
No.
Because they've been exploiting them. That's how they got rich.
Sure.
And how do they stay rich? Keep exploiting
them. Same thing. Yeah.
And what these Democrat people don't understand is they're just useful idiots out there buying into all that. And they don't realize that that is against their best interest. Isn't that shameful?
They've been selling them the same bag of goods for years.
It's hard for them to think otherwise because, let's face it, you turn on your TV, it's nothing but propaganda convincing you that you should be a socialist communist.
Yeah. You pick up your newspaper.
You go to school, and from kindergarten on, you're indoctrinated that you should be a communist socialist. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to be encouraged to be the freedom that we used to talk, what you just got through talking about with your little dairies and so forth. Yeah.
You know, it's really sad. It really is. It's terribly sad.
Well, it's something that is.
Thank goodness we have Donald Trump. For one
Oh my Lord! There's a deal, that website. I mean, these are religious people, and they thank God every day, pray, and so forth. About it. Thank God we had Donald Trump go. Well, because if we didn't, Ray, I guarantee you we'd be on a handcar going to Venezuela.
Sure, exactly. I know you're right.
And that has happened. You say, well, that wouldn't happen here. Yes, it would.
Yes, it would.
Because look what happened to Venezuela.
I'm convinced it would.
Yeah. Can you imagine, like, even all that European stuff? Well, just look at the folly. Look at the California. California is a communist state. Period. And there's no common sense. There's no. There's no reason why we should be having these catastrophic forest fires in California if there was management.
Sure, it was. Absolutely, it was.
And it's a shame they have to get to the level at that point before people start waking up. Yeah. I don't see any real big hope for California, Washington, or Oregon yet.
No. They're lost.
They're pretty much lost. We are going to be able to circumvent some things by partnering with Mexico.
Yeah.
Mexico is going to fill the void that should be.
The gas thing, for instance.
Right.
I mean, these idiots voted to continue that, and yet they're supposedly for the people. Oh my goodness!
Well,
it's been a wake-up call for everyone.
Well, then, and Mexico is going to fill the gap, and the Mexican people's got to fill the gap because there's going to be a wage increase for all Mexican workers, not just the car workers.
Yeah,
it's going to go with all Mexican workers, and I think it's going to happen rather rapidly.
I do too.
Well, let's just look and see what happened in the last 2 years here. If we go from where Obama was 900 new jobs a month
to 75,000.
Yeah. So what happens in Mexico? Can they move fast? Yes, they can move fast. They can. And what he wants is to get rid of, the cartels and that kind of thing.
Oh, that's a plus. If they can, like you said, if they can do that, that country will grow like mad.
I think it's going to grow. It'll grow much quicker than people even realize because unless you've worked with it like I have, you can't imagine the value of a Mexican labor is phenomenal by comparison. Yeah. I remember this is years ago at this ranch in Washington, and I had 100% Mexican labor out there. It was a time of year I had probably 150, 200 people.
Apples.
Yeah. And this couple carloads of white people came in there, and they wanted a job. Well, I had to hire them because they would turn me into the
labor board.
Labor board, right? So I go to the Mexicans out there, and I said, geez, I'm sorry, but this is about 10 o'clock in the morning. And I said, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to hire these people. Otherwise, we're going to turn us all in. You guys will be turned in just like myself. And I said, well, so you guys are, we're done for the day as far as that's concerned, because I need to hire these white people. And all of them white people are telling me how they could outwork these Mexicans and all this stuff, right? So anyway, they get out there. It's piecework. So they get out there. This is about 10 in the morning. And I went somewhere, I come back, and I see all these Mexicans. They're all hanging around down there at the shop, So anyway, I go in there, and I said, hey, I thought I told you guys could go home, because, He said, oh, no, we'll just wait here, because those guys ain't going to last.
They knew, yeah.
They knew. Lo and behold, I think it was even before noon, here they come with these white people getting in their cars and
taking off.
They didn't even bother to go up get a check for the half a bin they picked.
They just said the heck with it.
Yeah, we're out of here. And these Mexicans went back to work.
Sure.
So I don't think people really appreciate the value of the Mexican labor and how powerful that could become in their own country.
Absolutely, Gary.
And that makes that country rich by their own people. And you, because I go to these places where it's almost 100% Mexican, and I ask them, I said, they all would rather be home. They were born there, and they'd love to be back home with their families and so forth in Mexico. And why not? There's a lot of neat things in Mexico. Sure. They got great fishing. They got great forests. They got a lot of wonderful beaches.
Yeah.
Good climate.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of reason to want to live in Mexico,
Sure.
You see. And I think that there's going to be a time when you're going to see that could be a non-issue, and we could have Mexico as they'll look back at this time and say, "Oh my God,
I can't believe it."
No, in fact, there'll be a time where somebody will read about it in a book, and then not believe what they read. This is what I foresee, and I think that it's going to be fought. Though it's going to be fought, but the Mexican president's he's getting fought by the corrupt.
Well, sure, the cartels don't want that.
The cartels do not want it, and neither do his big club.
Yeah, just like Trump's.
Just like Trump's. Just like it's no different.
Yeah.
So they got the same motive.
Yeah.
Exploit the people.
Sure. Like you said, it's the only way for them to thrive.
I mean, we're being exploited by these big elitist establishment elitists that pay. I mean, look at our media. 95%. Is these people.
Yeah.
And their propaganda. It's no different. I used to like to think it was, but I was pretty naive.
Well, we all were.
I mean, look what we've learned in the last couple of years that we didn't know. Yeah. I used to think, boy, FBI, that's just a pristine deal. That's
I wanted to be an FBI.
Well, that's one of the most crooked, corrupt things. Yeah. How come these people aren't in jail that you and I'd be sitting in jail rotting? How come they're not in jail? They're out running around. The biggest crime family in the United States, even Al Capone and Mafia, bigger than all that, is the the Clinton crime family. How come those people aren't in jail?
Absolutely. That
doesn't make sense, does it?
They're bigger than Al Capone ever thought.
Oh, my Lord, he's just a piker. In fact, he spent time in jail,
Oh, yeah, he did. They died in there, I think. Yeah, he died in jail.
And these people are sitting there running around free. Yeah. Look at Comey.
Oh, he's a perfect example.
I mean, there's a guy head of the FBI.
What a worthless piece of crap he is.
But look he's the head of the FBI.
Yeah.
And he turns out he's as crooked as a dog's hind leg. I've used that expression because he is. But he's running around free.
And the Clintons had him right in their hip pocket. It took us a long time to realize that.
Yeah. They had him in their hip pocket. And so I think that there is people waking up, but of course not fast enough.
Not fast enough.
And it's almost like I thought, well, this election things would straighten out. No, I was disappointed that the Democrats took control of the House. I'm disappointed that there was people that voted. But I also began to realize that a lot of these votes that got the Democrats elected was fraud votes. Why is all the votes found? How come they're always Democrat votes? How come you can't find a Republican vote? Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. If you find some Democrats, there's got to be some Republicans.
Well, you'd think
you know.
so. But no, they find this vote. Oh, I just found a box of ballots. I just found a box of ballots in my car.
They're all Democratic.
They're all Democrats. Isn't that something? So these elections get flipped. There's 3 of them just recently right here in California. They're flipped. And I don't know. And we don't have the kind of law enforcement to correct that.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're complicit.
Well, sure.
They're part of it.
Absolutely, they're part of it. Absolutely.
So they're not going to go in and do anything about it. I always think of that poor guy that took a picture of the submarine.
Oh, my gosh.
Spends a year in jail, and here's Hillary with top secret clearance. Can you imagine what she had in her emails?
Yeah.
And she
The guy takes a photo and he goes to jail. Are you kidding me?
And here she is, running around footloose and fancy free, violating a top secret clearance. That's all he did.
We owe him, they owe him a major apology.
Well, I guess they, I don't know. That to me is so unequal.
Oh, absolutely it is.
So I guess, Ray, that the one thing that I feel optimistic about is this trade agreement now that we have.
That's a biggie, Gary.
We're going to have to go through the aggravation of the Democrats, yang, and the what I call the rhino Republicans.
Yeah.
They're not for that. But you're going to see the hypocrisy. Well, I'm a Democrat up there, and I'm sitting there saying, Ray, I want to protect that American worker. In the meantime, I got these.
I love that. I absolutely love it.
I mean, isn't that the height of? I mean, you see how they think we're so stupid that we're not going to realize stuff like that. I mean, it's like they're living in a world that they have
It's
no.
almost like a bubble, isn't it?
It is a bubble.
It really is.
Yeah, they're living in a bubble when they could. I mean, my Lord, how do I sit there and say, well, I'm worried about the Mexican worker, but boy, I want no borders and I want all the immigration to come in. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It's a contradiction in terms, isn't it?
Yeah,
It really is, and you pointed that out and you made it clear.
It's hypocritical, and I think that this is, I could say, I mean, it's both parties. Although I guess best the way I look at it, it's both parties, but it's more so the Democrats that are socialist communists and with the corruption than Republicans. That's all. Yeah. As far as Trump's concerned, I don't. The more this goes along, I begin to realize that he's by himself. He is by himself.
He really is.
Think about it.
I loved what you said. Why not get his son-in-law and his daughter
and run this thing.
And run this country? Let everybody else go.
Because
keep Pence. Keep Pence.
Yeah, keep Pence.
Yeah.
And Pompeo, I guess.
Yeah, Pompeo. I like Pompeo.
And a few of those guys he's got right there. But boy, I mean, there's one just the other day come up. I thought he was he's just as crooked as the rest of them. That Trump's got there on his cabinet. Now he needs to get rid of those people.
Yeah.
And he's human like everybody else, and I think one of his weaknesses is that he's pretty naive when it comes to hiring people. Look at
I think you're right, Gary. No one said.
What is he doing hiring Mueller, Rosenstein?
Oh, Mueller's a perfect. Yeah, Mueller. Oh my gosh.
I mean, what's he doing hiring people like that?
Yeah.
They just come back and stab him in the back.
Mueller, Sessions, all those people.
It's kind of sad, and those are just the ones we know about. Mm-hmm. We don't know it.
You're right.
I mean, like, for instance, inside that FBI, look at that raid. What has that raid done? My Lord, it's awful.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to, now, one thing that he is doing right now, he's holding that declassified, those names.
Yeah.
He's holding that leverage over their heads right now.
I love it, yeah.
And I think that's the only reason why he hasn't let it out is because he doesn't have anything else. Yeah. He's not getting any help from anywhere else. And you begin to realize after a while that a lot of this stuff that is going on that's helping us, he's had to do it by himself. Yeah. And he's standing by himself. Yeah. Well, I say he's standing by himself until you go see a rally, then you realize how many people are Trumpers.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I just love it. I love it. I love it. You've got you ever since you pointed that out, I've been observing that and seeing that it's right there,
He's got the backing of the he's got the backing of the patriotic American.
Yeah.
Which Ray,
I see it with my shirt on every day.
Yeah, well,
it's
and I
amazing.
see it every time I see this show, American Patriot.
Yeah. and I do, Gary. I mean, you would not believe the people at GB3 where I work out. Just great bunch of people. I love all those people, the staff, the people that come there. I can't walk down the aisle without somebody going like this or shaking my hand and saying, "Right on, Ray."
Well, it's more powerful.
And it makes me feel so good. I will always wear this. Always wear it.
It's more powerful than they want to admit.
Sure, it is.
But here's the thing that really I don't think this election, the House would have been Democrat had there not been for the fraud.
Sure. You
see.
Yeah, because I was shocked.
Yeah, I was too.
I did not expect that.
Because I'm talking to people that used to be Democrats, they're now Republicans.
Yeah.
Or voting
Me
that
too,
way.
Gary.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, well, how can that be? And now the House goes Democrat?
I've had more people come up and say, how in the world did we lose the House? You would not believe. I bet you people have asked me that 20, 30 times.
Well, have you ever talked to a Republican that said, no, I switched parties and went Democrat?
No.
No, I haven't either.
I haven't, Gary.
I have talked to plenty that have
I've talked to a lot of Democrats.
So how do you lose the House?
Yeah, you don't, unless it's fraud.
Unless it's fraud.
That's all.
Yeah.
Gary, we've run out of time. I can't believe it. It's 3:58, and like I say all the time, when Gary comes, it goes by very quickly. I've got to tell you something. In our campaign to get people to go up and shake hands with law enforcement, it's come completely around. I've gotten wonderful men in blue and sheriff's deputies and highway patrolmen that are coming up and shaking my hand, and I just love it. So please, let's continue this. Let's make this a major thing. When you see a law enforcement officer, go up and shake his hand and thank him for the job he does, just like we do with other servicemen. I won't see a serviceman in uniform without shaking his hands. Well, let's do the same thing with our law enforcement officers, because they put their lives on the line every day. They're super first responders. Firemen too. I'm starting to do it with firemen. Let's recognize these people that put their lives on the line and put themselves in harm's way for us. Let's do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, and Gary, can we get you back here next week?
Let's finish that.
Okay.
Because by then we're going to know a lot more about what's going on.
Good. We'll come back and we'll talk about that this next week. So, ladies and gentlemen, until we meet joyously again on next Friday at 3 o'clock, heaven's blessings.
CentralValleyTalk.com